Hey folks, welcome to Tuesday the 9th of November 2021. And we are waking up to new all-time highs on Bitcoin, and Ethereum is certainly not at new all-time highs, but really making a good run of it at the moment. I will cover this in the crypto edition that I'm going to add. Well, we could add a little bit of this into this pre-US, but first of all, we're going to go over and have a look at these capital markets. So really, anything changed between now and yesterday? From a fundamental picture, no, nothing really. The Tesla weight, the gap down and the pre-market certainly yesterday of about 7.5% down, really not providing any worries for the SPOs or the Nasdaq. So let's get over and have a look at these markets and see if we can see. So the euro lifting yesterday out of that 10 a.m. marker on the 15645s up here. You can see, well, actually, I'll show you on the weekly. Really quite a tricky area for the euro. I mean, not being able to hold on to the 15645s here was really quite worrying some for the euro last Thursday and Friday, but managed to recapture that yesterday and get back up into this line in the sand you can see here. That line in the sand is really, just an area that I have going back to, let's see, the Thursday, the 14th of October, and it's held up quite well. You can see, especially here on the 26th, 27th, and 28th of October, this was being a really defined line in the sand. So we now managed to get back up there this morning, but not able to hold on to those gains, and we're right back down, pretty much unchanged on the session. So I'd be looking at a pullback 15645 for the longs, and then we could stand a chance in getting up higher prices on the week in the euro. Looking across, cable as well is coming out of the Governor Bailey pits, if you like. We were targeting 34.12s and just saw a reversal there really last Friday, coming back up out of those lows and into pretty decent trading territory now, 35.74s. To show you that on the weekly for cable, it does seem like, yeah, we had a down week last week, but now likely for a pop to the 36.71s, and then we could resume the downtrend, headed for the 34.12s and actually 33.52s. But let's see how she trades. Certainly some good trade this morning. Well, we're up 0.1%. So nothing crazy. I would be careful on this trend that you can see forming this morning. A breach on that will trigger us back down 35.33s and potentially 35.10s. Gold. Yeah, I mean, gold has really been quite a nice, easy trade. Looking at this on the weekly charts, we had top right of your charts. We had that point here, on Friday last, where it was just too cheap, and you can see the buyers coming in, committing against that and pushing well above the 50. Target has been the other side of this pennant, the downward trend, and so we've achieved that this morning. Well, actually, yesterday we achieved that, and holding on to those gains quite well. When you're trading gold, you have to be mindful of the real yield. There's an inverse correlation, so that would mean that bonds and gold would move directionally at the same time. So you can see in the bonds here on the T-note, holding quite well above this line in the sand. Let me just kind of lock this in here. This line in the sand, which is 131.10s to 131.7s. I think as long as we can hold there on T-notes, we can manage to hold on to these gains on gold. So do be aware of that. Sorry, it's just behind my head here. You can see bottom left here. Anyway, moving on before I look at equities. Oil has had a phenomenal bounce, if you like, off of the 79.81. So last week we pushed down into there. You can see that 78.26 is in the bottom mid of your screen. Was a beautiful existing open gap area that did hold the market when we came down to test, and of course then rallying up into the currently 82.31s. This gap above, just to make you mindful of this, the gap above is still not technically fully closed. So that sits at R2 83.50s today. Certainly by the tone of oil, we're up 0.48%. We were up at 0.8% on the R1 earlier. Yeah, I think we're stuck in this range until we hear out of the US administration, and if Joseph Biden can actually get a release from the SPR, Oil Reserves Fund in the US. They're currently holding about 690 million barrels in the SPR, and I think it's really going to be. I don't think it's likely that Biden is going to be able to release funds or release oil from that fund, given that his request is not on the back of a time of war or after like a hurricane or something like that. But I think the oil market is still a little bit on tenterhooks as to whether or not that will happen, and so I think if we can get past this week, it may be a case that it is not going to happen, right? So do be mindful of, again, the trend here on the morning for oil. So I think I don't want to be short this market right now. I think it's doing quite the job of getting back up. So maybe if we do get a situation of pulling back 79.81s, I'd like to be long that to go for higher. I'm not really interested in the short scenarios at the moment on oil. Looking around, let's see, into these US equities. You've seen the Nasdaq, it's up 0.2%. At the moment, it's broken that morning trend. If you like this morning trend here, so we can just kind of see that again. I think we're going to shoot for new all-time highs on this market. Really, I'd even be willing to buy a pivot test again, 332s, and push up to the all-time high. There is a gap opening here that's currently open, 15156.50s down to 130.50s, and that was the top of that gap was incredible support there really on Thursday last. So I think onwards and upwards for these markets. Very similar activity on the SPOs. A little bit of a trend. I'm actually going to take that off now. Little bit of a trend there, but I think the all-time high is 47.11.75s on the top. It's very hard to see this market not continue to push on at this time. It's a little bit of a trend going on here to pay attention to, but currently holding the pivot on the bid, but not a huge amount of committed buying there so far. So we have the PPIs coming out at 1:30, and I think that's really going to be the catalyst that we need to move these markets out of their existing ranges. Yeah. So the Dow as well, I'm not really interested in trading any of this until we get PPI, and probably until half an hour after the pit open. Again, you've seen fantastic support coming in, 35.971s yesterday, or sorry, not yesterday, Friday, and bid on up into this 161.8 Fibonacci extension. We can probably take that one off right now. I was initially shorting this actually, which was a really nice short to get into. That was, when was that? That was 2 o'clock on Friday. Nice trade to be had there. But you don't want to be, in any sort of long-term shorts in these equities unless you have kind of put protection on it, or sorry, call protection. And really, that's just not a timeless trade. So currently, all-time high 36.446 on this market. It's sort of kind of consolidating in here, but let's wait for PPI. I think you've got buyers at 35.971s. If they get smashed, I think you're going to have a big old rundown on this thing. Not only 35.798s, but probably back to average pricing a little bit more here. And we can certainly start to put on something like the 20 EMA down at 35.625s for a bit of that return to average support, for then getting higher on up. But really, these markets have been tricky, very tricky into these all-time highs. Yeah, so that's it for me for today's session. Please do click to subscribe in YouTube and get notified. Otherwise, I'll speak to everybody in the Pro Trader live Discord throughout the day, and have a good session. All right, cheers.